balance with workforce management and how we can involve agents in more of the workforce management process. So understanding the cultural shift. And I look at these slides, 22% of millennials are dissatisfied, and 19% of members of Gen Z are dissatisfied with their work-life balance. But I kind of call BS on this, right? Because I'm 42 and I don't fit into either of these categories, and we all kind of want the same things. So we all want work-life balance. We all want to be able to self-serve. We all have, I think, a greater expectation of what comes from working with an organization. So you're going to hear that a lot. Millennials, they want this and they want that. And it's not just them. It is them, and they lead the way, and they might be the most vocal, but this affects all of us with what we bring as workforce management practitioners and the way our agents or our consultants have an expectation of what their life will be. So that's great, but it's all of us, right? So the gig economy, right? And this is, you've been in workforce management long enough, you hear these trends, It used to be multi-channel and now it's omni-channel and now it's the gig economy is the new thing. So 84 to 81% they're saying of Generation Z would consider joining the gig economy. And the gig economy is funny and it's interesting because if you kind of watch it long enough, we're seeing now court cases where people are not getting paid the correct penalties, and there's also a lot of dissatisfaction that can come from the gig economy as well, where perhaps they're not being treated with the same level of care, I guess, as a permanent employee. So even though we have these people who are really flexible, who are perhaps picking up packets of work, the way we nurture them and care for them and the experience that we should provide to them should also be the same. They should be protected in the same way as somebody who is a permanent employee sitting in a contact center. So one part of it is being able to come up with shifts that make sense and having the technology to support this flexibility, but also keeping those people engaged. How do we keep them engaged when they're perhaps always working remotely, or they rarely come into the contact center, or they only pick up shifts now and then? You watch that story and you see it it was the great new thing, and then eventually you start to hear these things coming out about it where people perhaps aren't being valued in the same way. And look at this guy, he's so upset and dissatisfied with his scheduling process that he's standing outside in the rain, right? He's like, this is not working. So less than 1/3 of contact centers are very satisfied with their scheduling process. So as Dr. Shiva said, I'm working for NICE, I've worked for a few different WFM vendors. I've been in workforce management myself. I've been an agent. I started off as an agent, so I've come all the way through. The scheduling process and even the forecasting processes are things, and even today in this room I've had a conversation where something starts in one workforce management platform and then it goes to Excel and then it comes back in and then it goes out and back in. So we see a lot of really fractured workflows. And scheduling is one of them, where either there's just parts of it that they can't automate, or they're not getting the most out of the solution, or perhaps it's very constrained and they can't really drive the outcomes that they want. Hopefully none of you all are out there in the rain like this fellow. It's not that bad. So what are the barriers to providing flexible schedules? So if we know that we can and it makes people happier, then why haven't we been doing that? And I can say from Australia in particular, a lot of the employees are actually contracted onto very specific hours. You're going to work 8 hours a day and your shift is 9 to 5:30. So we kind of have that mentality about what a shift actually is. So there's a fear that the business needs won't be covered, but I'll take you back a step further. I think a lot of them don't really even know what the business needs are in the first place. So you pump out the same shifts and you pump out the forecast, and Monday is a bit busier and Tuesday, Wednesday are a bit more quiet. But they don't really understand, perhaps you have different channels coming into the workforce management practice, right? That's probably one of the biggest shifts I've seen is now, it's not just voice, it's my life is consumed by trying to integrate NICE WFM to everything, because you all want Zendesk integrations and Salesforce integrations and everything else, right? So you may not really understand what your business needs are in the first place. You have your mind on voice, and so if we make a change, we don't really know what we're trying to fix, right? Because we're looking at one part of the story. So that's my first thought on that point. but then just that you won't be able to cover the demand in the usual way. Fairness. So if there's one thing I think that drives contact center agents nuts, is that they think somebody else is getting something that they're not getting. Why did so-and-so get so many Saturdays? I want Saturday. They got Christmas last year. I want Christmas. All of that stuff, right? So it's just too hard. So they go, oh, I'm just going to create a rotation. And you all get the same thing, and that's it. I don't have to ever worry about equitability in my scheduling process ever again. Great, okay, but the trade-off may be efficiency, it may be effectiveness, it may be true optimization, right? Because you just bang out a schedule that does the same thing. So they can't quite comprehend that notion, so they just don't go there. They take the safe path. And which leads on to the next point, is that they're just stuck or trapped in that ability to use fixed schedules, and that's just where they stay. So I came from a contact center once where they had a special allowance for parents to look after their children, and so they get the shifts that they want. And like I come in there and I'm like, this person's child is like 17. Why are they still getting? I think this kid can look after himself, right? Come on. But they have that legacy of fixed shifts, and I've always worked that shift, and that's a barrier to change, right? So, okay, right people in the right place at the right time. We've all heard that a million times, probably like you have tattooed on us somewhere, right? But it's kind of now more than that. It's about creating that sense of work-life balance that people want to actually be there. So I've been in Manila this week and met with a few different contact centers, one particularly large one from the BPO, and the competition for staff is fierce, right? And if they don't like your organization, they can press a different number in the lift and go to another BPO on another floor, and they're fine, right? But so we need to not only have them where we need them to be, but we need to have them wanting to be there, and that's why work-life balance is so important. For the first time ever, in this capacity, I saw an ad for an Australian insurance company, and they were recruiting for staff. And one of the first banners, it used to be, earn so many dollars per hour. The first thing was shift flexibility in big bold letters. Choose your own shift, and we'll work with you. And I thought, okay, that's really a change in mentality from where contact center was 15 years ago, when you're either full-time or part-time, and that's what you get. So businesses are leading now with that. So preferences go so far. Preferences are really funny. All of WFM technologies have preferences. They've had them for a while. Preferences are great until they really suck because you never give them to your staff, right? And so they can kind of lead to a sense of disengagement where the staff feel that they're telling you what they prefer to work. But perhaps because of limitations in your own business, you can never meet those preferences. Perhaps you're chronically understaffed and they never get them. So that's something that can lead to a bit of a disengagement. What this slide is talking about is really being able to involve the agent at every stage in the workforce management process. So having an AI capability and AI forecasting, you've seen it on some banners around, is new in the NICE WFM, one of our later versions. Can talk to anyone separately if they want to know why that's a differentiator. But it helps us to more accurately understand what we really need in the first place, okay? And it does that also by understanding the agent availability throughout that process. It can consider their preferences. We'll look at different options, mobility, being able to send notifications to people's smart watches, which NICE very graciously has given me one. Thanks, Eric. And being able to provide more automation and flexibility around schedule changes. So just going to move forward through here. This is how NICE creates a schedule. And I'm going to move forward because I want to talk a little bit more about the automation. So what this is saying here is that being able to really understand the availability of our agents, looking at their multi-skill efficiency when they're blended across different work types, understanding the weekly rules of the business, and looking at time off. So who benefits from taking a more holistic approach and involving agents along the way? All of us, really. Part-time employees, students, and everyone. And for us in operations, it makes more sense because they're more likely to turn up on time, be productive, and all of the good things that we want. It's a whole new world. We have an auto list of agents who would be the appropriate people to fill up the shift. So this is my animation is off. This is a workflow. So we just step it through. So we've detected a spike in calls and an employee deficit between this certain period. The rule engine fires, it finds the optimal shift and the person who's most likely to be available for an overtime or extended shift. The intraday analyst gets presented with a list to remedy the situation. Here are the people who could work the shift. And the employee themselves can be notified by a desktop, email, smartphone, or SMS in some regions, and they can confirm or accept the change, and the schedules are automatically updated, and that's it, it's done. All of the intraday management, as you know it, doesn't need to exist anymore like that. And we have up to 50 customers now who are operating in this way. The largest one is 30,000 seats. The intraday function is totally automated. So here's what it looks like from the end user perspective. Hey, there's an additional shift available. Would you like to pick it up or not? And they can come from email. The alert can come on your phone, for example. Yup, your response has been registered. Your shift has been modified, and the schedule is updated. Done. Again, self-service. The agents can swap with themselves. Oh, today looks kind of quiet. I'm going to go home early 2 hours, and I'm going to do an extra 2 hours tomorrow. So we bring a new concept in. Not only can you swap with other people, you can swap with yourself. We make sure the hours balance out over the week. Again, making agents partners, bringing them into the process. And I wouldn't be doing my job, right? As a salesperson, we're obligated, probably being recorded somewhere, to make sure I put in the slide about where we sit on the quadrant. And with respect to my parent colleagues in the room, we've all got slides with these, so apologies. But we're up there. Probably, everyone's got slides, but if you take away something from this, it's really, keywords on this slide is ability to execute. Anyone can sell software. You can go and download WFM calculators off the internet, right? But if you have a vision of really transforming your WFM into something, we talk about the maturity model, into something where you're strategic, where you're thought leaders, where your operations don't move without your help and guidance and support on those operational decisions, you need to partner with somebody who can get stuff done. And that's where we sit in. Where NICE come into the picture, and we have just one more slide, just showing our market share. I'm going to say thank you.